Hey everybody, if you're a retail florist with an e-commerce website, what do you think the top 5 mistakes are to have on your e-commerce website that can drastically affect the amount of online business you get? Hey everybody, I'm Frank Blanchard, AIFD, and like I said, there are some mistakes that can be made on your e-commerce website, and specifically for florists and people in the floral industry that have an e-commerce website. There are some mistakes that can be made that can drastically affect how much online business you get. You can have a beautiful website and you can get a lot of web traffic, but that does not mean you've actually got people buying from your website. So I wanted to share these 5 things that if you check them out on your website, they're things that can be easily improved so that your overall business on your florist e-commerce website will also improve. So, one of the first things that really affects how much business and also how much web traffic you're going to get on an e-commerce website for a florist is your text content. And it's probably one of the most important because your text content, even on an e-commerce website, is where you've got your keywords and your keyword phrases on your website. And ultimately, your keywords and your keyword phrases are how the search engines find you and find your website and your place on the web. That's really important because when the search engines can find you, then when your customers and clientele are searching for your services and products, the search engines will be able to answer their search query for whatever they happen to be looking for. So really important is to make sure you've got a good amount of text content on your website. One of the best places to have some of that information is within your descriptions of the items that you've got on your website. So, as an example, keywords, things like that you want to include, if this was the arrangement that somebody clicked on, I would actually, within the text that I have for the description of that item, I would list by name all of the different flowers that I have in that description, along with some frequently asked questions and answers, care and handling, so that the customer gets the longest base life possible. That's all the kind of thing that you want to include in that information, so that if you can come up with 2 or 3 good paragraphs of information for your product descriptions for each one, that would be really good. Also, it helps if that information is completely different and specific to each item that you've got on your website. So that's number 1. Number 2, and this is a big one that I think a lot of retail florists make. As retail florists, we can fall into this pit of stereotype for florists that more of everything is better. And when it comes to your e-commerce website, that actually is not true. More is not always better, and in fact, more can be a big problem. So, along with making sure that you've got a good amount of text content on your website, including keywords and keyword phrases so the search engines can find you. You also want to make sure that you don't have too much on your website, specifically on an e-commerce website, to give people too many choices for a couple of different reasons. Number one, if you give people too many choices, they oftentimes run the risk of not being able to make a decision. So they end up bouncing off your site and not making a purchase. So that's one. The other reason why you don't want to have too much on your website is because the more you have on your website, specifically an e-commerce website, the longer your website takes to load. And when you consider about 80 to 85% of your business, online business, is from a mobile device, and it's usually somebody's cell phone, but also even an iPad. The more you have on your website, the longer it takes to load. And the longer people have to wait, they're just gonna bounce off, because you literally have about 2 seconds to get their attention and to have something in front of their face to look at. So make sure that you pare down your offerings on your e-commerce website, because that will greatly improve how fast your website will load for people. And that in and of itself will also greatly improve your overall bounce rate. So, text content, not having too much on your website as far as choices for people. And also activity. There needs to be a good amount of regular activity from you or whoever manages your website on a regular basis. It doesn't work anymore to have an e-commerce website and it just sits there and you don't do anything with it and you get business. That doesn't work. That's not how e-commerce works. There has to actually be activity there. And when there is regular activity on your florist e-commerce website, that is when the search engines raise your website up in ranking on the web. If you go for long periods of time with never uploading anything new or adding any new text content to your website, that, just like social media, that's when, with the search engines, your website falls down lower in rank. So, things that you can do to improve that is to seasonally change a significant amount of the items that you have for sale on your florist e-commerce website. Some of the best shops that do that, and the shops that get the majority of the business, they have a real scaled down website. They don't have a huge offering on their website. And as the seasons change throughout the year, absolutely everything on their website is completely different. It all changes. So that goes for the actual picture image of the items on the e-commerce website, but it also goes for all of the text content that goes along with them. That's really important. So if you want to move to that kind of a time frame of changing things up on your website, that's one way that you can go, is to just offer fewer items and seasonally have them change completely. That can really be a benefit to you for your business. So that's one thing to think of. The other area that you can add a considerable amount of text content that will help keep that rank up with the search engines for your e-commerce website is to have a blog as part of your website. If you blog on a weekly or at the bare minimum a monthly basis, that will dramatically help your overall ranking on the web. Blogging doesn't have to be extensive. It doesn't have to be a huge, long blog, but if you can get something on your e-commerce website in the way of a blog, and each time you do it, that you can include a good 1,000 to maybe 1,500 words within that blog post, that would be really good for you. And that would drastically help. So again, making sure that you've got a good amount of text content, not having too much on your e-commerce website, making sure that you're regularly adding or changing information on your website, but especially adding. And also pricing. For a florist e-commerce website, you really need to make sure that your pricing is consistent throughout your entire website. One thing when it comes to pricing that can really affect your bounce rate is to have lots of real random prices, and you want to think of trying to stick to whole dollar amounts and scaling up either by $5, $10, potentially $20, $25, or larger increments. You don't want to have a lot of prices on items at potentially $45 and $55, and then you throw something into the mix at $62.95. Things like that will mess you up. So on your prices on your e-commerce website, you also want to make sure that you either stick to whole dollar amounts, and if you have a change amount on the prices on your items, such as 95 cents or 99 cents, that's usually what's the most typical. Pick one or the other, and then you need to make sure that that is exactly the same on every price for every item on your website. You cannot fluctuate between them back and forth. If you're going to have 99 cents on anything on your website, you have to have 99 cents on every item. And it's the same for 95 cents. Or if you do, I wouldn't think you would do 50 cents, but if you did, again, you would have to make sure that it was that amount on every single item. So, text content, not having too much. Making sure your items are changing on a regular basis, and you're adding text content on a regular basis. Making sure that your pricing is consistent across the board for everything on your website. Lastly, making sure that, as pretty as it is, and we can really like it, is to have anything on your website that scrolls. It could be a photo image gallery, it could be a banner or header on your website that scrolls, or it could be a footer with some information that scrolls. Anything like that, stay away from it. If you've got it on your website, you need to make a point of changing that and taking that off of your website. Why? Is because it takes a lot of data space to have those on your website. So again, just like having too many items on your website, which can make your overall website load really slowly for people, having those scrolling items, anything scrolling on your website, there again, that's something that's going to drastically slow down how quickly your website will load for people. And for every 5 seconds of loading time for your website, whether it's on somebody's mobile device or on a desktop computer, you're gonna lose people. So the faster you can get your website to load, the better. So for today, those are your 5 top things that can greatly improve your overall florist e-commerce website and how well it functions. So those are things the next time you've got a few minutes, you might want to take a look at your website and see how it's functioning. See if you see any of those things that I mentioned. Make sure you've got enough text content. Make sure you don't have anything scrolling on your website. And start thinking about how you might want to change things up seasonally on your website. All of those things will greatly improve your online business for your florist e-commerce website. Make sure to subscribe to my channel because I do regularly post helpful information and tips specifically for people in the flower business and the floral industry to improve your overall business on the internet. So until next time, hit that bell icon, give it a thumbs up, and we will see you very soon. Bye for now.